Governor Jindal, good morning to you.
Good morning, Meredith. Thank you for having me this morning.
Pleasure to have you here. Before we discuss what you believe was wrong with the president's speech last night, what do you believe was right?
Well, there were several things. Let me start off by saying we certainly want the same things for our country as our president. We may disagree on the approach, but I think he's a good, decent, honest man. Several things in the speech that I think we can all agree on. For example, he talked about education, the fact that responsibility starts at home. He's talked about kids staying in high school, something we're very focused on here in Louisiana. Talked about supporting charter schools. He talked about not creating debt for our children. He talked about creating additional benefits for our military, for our veterans, for our soldiers. There were several things he talked about that certainly I think we can all agree on as Republicans, as Democrats, as Americans first. Let me also say the president is an incredibly gifted speaker, maybe a once-in-a-generational speaker. He showed that yet again last night.
You know, Governor, you just heard the vice president take you to task for some of the words that you brought up last night. He said basically he's heard about all the criticism, but you never say what you're going to do.
Well, look, we've laid out, the Republicans have laid out a plan. For example, rather than spending $1 billion on the census, $300 million to buy federal government cars, instead of all the wasteful spending and the stimulus, why not do what they first said they were going to do? Let's do targeted infrastructure investments. Let's do tax breaks. Let's lower permanently the lower tax rates on the lower tax brackets of the income tax. Let's cut taxes on capital gains. Let's give a more aggressive net carry forward of losses for small businesses. It was in the House version. It was in the Senate version. Somehow it got reduced substantially in the conference. Here's the fundamental disagreement. We think we do need to work to get the economy moving. We think it's more important to get the private sector moving rather than just spending government money. It's not about creating deficits. They call these temporary government programs. I fear these are going to become permanent government programs. There's not enough money in Washington to grow our economy. We cannot tax and borrow our way out of this. So we agree we need to get our economy moving. The reality, though, is we think we need to focus on getting our businesses to hire people, to create jobs. That will help to address the challenges that our country is facing.
Governor, one of your fellow Republican governors, Utah's Jon Huntsman, agrees that there is wasteful spending in the stimulus package. But he says when it comes to fiscal responsibility, the Republicans have no credibility. As he put it, our moral responsibility was completely taken away from us because of our behavior in the last few years. Do you agree with him?
Oh, I absolutely agree that Republicans and Democrats both have had a spending problem. I said it last night. The people of America elected Republicans to go to Washington to change Washington, and instead we became captive to the same special interest. The Republican Party defended earmarks and increased spending we never would have tolerated in the other side. The reality is, though, that when you look at the nearly $1 trillion that was proposed and passed in the stimulus bill, this is a different order of magnitude. This is more than we've ever spent in a single act of Congress, more than we spent on the Louisiana Purchase, more than we spent on the Vietnam War, more than we spent on Katrina. And so absolutely, Republicans have to match our actions to our rhetoric. I certainly hope the Democrats will as well. During the last election cycle, they talked about fiscal conservatism. They talked about bipartisanship. Bipartisanship's not just having people over for lemonade and cookies in the White House. It takes hard work. We're doing it in Louisiana. We've worked across party lines. We've cut taxes 6 times. We've reformed our ethics laws. That's what we're looking for in Washington. Let me say it's early in this administration. We want to give this president a chance. We want to work with him. Every chance we agree with him, we're going to look for every opportunity to work across the aisle. But when we disagree, we're going to be unafraid to offer principled, conservative, alternative solutions.
But this president is accusing you of playing politics by not being agreeable to accepting all of the stimulus money for your state. And Chuck Schumer, the senator from New York, took it one step further. He said, if you have such a problem with the stimulus package, then why are you taking any money?
Well, I'm doing what I was elected to do, which is to act on the interest of Louisiana's taxpayers. Let's be clear. I turned down nearly $100 million, but for this reason. We're talking about temporary federal money that would require us to make a permanent change in our state law that would increase spending permanently. When those dollars ran out, we're talking about ongoing obligations for Louisiana's taxpayers. It would result in higher taxes in our businesses. I disagree with that approach. I don't think we should be raising taxes on businesses, especially in this economy. And by the way, I know it was a 1,000-page bill that they got at midnight and they voted on very quickly. Maybe they should read the bill, because at first the Democratic Party came out and said, no, you don't have to make a permanent change, except that's what their bill says. Now the senator is trying to say, well, you can't pick and choose, but their bill does say that you're allowed. Governors should, by the way, look at every provision, every program. That's the responsible thing to do. I know the federal government is powerful. The federal government shouldn't have the power to make Louisiana raise taxes on businesses. We're not going to do it. It wouldn't be responsible. It's not the right thing to do for our taxpayers. By the way, I heard the Vice President talk about our economy. We were the only state last month that added jobs in this country. We've continued to outperform the national economy. We've done it in part because we've cut taxes. We're going to continue to do that.
Okay, Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal, on that note, thank you very much, sir, for joining us this morning.